Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu today we have Troubleshooter, the 1991 Sega Genesis classic. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. We'll skip past the opening cutscene and get right to our special weapon selection. So before each stage, you have the ability to choose between 4 different special weapons. There's the Lightning Storm, the Tidal Wave, the Blizzard, and the Avalanche. For stage 1, we'll take the Blizzard. Okay, now let's get busy. In Troubleshooter, we play the role of Madison and Crystal. 2 troubleshooters, basically mercenaries hired to take care of people's problems in ways that require a lot of firepower. The story basically involves us being hired to save a prince of a kingdom who is kidnapped on a trip to our country, which I'm assuming might be the United States? Hard to say, really. So as far as mechanics are concerned, we have the ability to shoot. We control the character Madison, who's the blonde, and our partner, Crystal, follows us around. Crystal is invulnerable, so that provides for a lot of opportunity to use strategic fire. We also have the ability to flip which direction she's facing, forward and backwards. And then we have our special weapon. The special weapon can be used any number of times throughout the course of the stage. It just recharges between uses. But it's important to note, don't press the button before the weapon is fully charged, or the charge will deplete and begin charging from scratch. So Troubleshooter uses a hit point system rather than a life system. Each time Madison gets hit, she loses hit points. And it's possible for us to gain more hit points by collecting hit point or heart power-ups, like this one right here. The hit points are represented in the top right. We start out represented with dots, and as we climb above 5, it starts counting up with numbers. Here we find ourselves at the boss of stage 1. This boss is pretty awesome. Initially, he just is waving at us, not really having a care in the world. Even as we begin firing at him, he doesn't seem too put out by it. And boss down. Or wait, is he? So this particular boss fight is a good example of how we use the ability to have Madison and Crystal facing opposite directions to deal damage to this enemy regardless of where he's at. So the main mech itself doesn't take damage, it's just this flying head. And with the head destroyed, stage 1 is complete. We get our stage summary. Prepare for more trouble and make it double. Prince Eldon, are you okay? Don't worry, I was hired by Colonel Patch to rescue you. I'm on my way. Awesome! Unless my demands are met, the only place the prince is heading is the morgue. And unless you want to end up the same way, I suggest you beat it. For stage 2, we'll equip the Tidal Wave. And we begin our descent through this vertical shaft full of deadly laser blades. So the game does have a total of 4 power-ups that we collect throughout the course of the game. There's speed-ups as well as speed-downs. firepower, and of course hit points, which this particular stage is very generous in giving us. So Trouble Shooter has some interesting history with its release. Despite being a Japanese-developed title, the game originally launched in the United States, coming out several months later in 2002 in Japan. The title also had a name change, going from Troubleshooter to Battle Mania. The characters' names were changed. Madison became Mania, and Crystal became Maria. And there were some art changes made between the releases as well. The title did also receive a sequel in Japan that was never released in North America. Battle Mania 2. Here we find ourselves at the sub-boss of Stage 2. Just some weirdo flying on a hover platform. Once we destroy his hover platform, he runs around crazy, and we continue our descent. So what do we have for plus flavors for Troubleshooter? I really like the light-hearted feel that the game itself has. And also the unique reverse royalty rescue that we have in the title is refreshing. Rather than always saving the princess, getting a chance for the heroine to save a prince instead is refreshing and different. Simply because it just doesn't happen often enough. At the bottom of the shaft, we now find ourselves at the boss fight. It's 2 stages. We have these 2 orbs that fire lasers and spin around the screen. Another thing I really do enjoy about the title is the life points versus the lives. Especially with how generous they are giving you life points, and there's no set limit to how many you can have. You can accrue a lot of hits if you're careful and not taking much damage. So this boss fight is interesting. Initially, this boss fires these lasers that both block our shots and also our ability to move around the screen, pinning us in a section of the screen and potentially separating Madison and Crystal as well. Defeat his arms, and he just runs around trying to run into us. I do also enjoy the bright, colorful characters that we have throughout the course of the game. Both your main characters are nicely detailed. All the bosses are interesting and intriguing to look at. Some of the minus flavors that I feel the game has. The sound effects. I'm not really a huge fan of the shot sound effect, and it can get a little grating throughout the course of the gameplay. The stage is a total, or rather, the game is a total of 6 stages long. With the final stage consisting largely of just your boss fight. Here in stage 3, we're fighting a giant battleship. Seems almost to be a shoot-'em-up trope where Stage 3 has large battleships in it. Thank you, R-Type, for that. Another minus flavor I feel the game has, there are just times where it's throwing cheap shots out at you to deal damage. And I don't really appreciate that too much in any shoot-'em-up. And lastly, though this one's more of a minor complaint, it wasn't possible to remap the controls as you want for the game. There are 3 presets available, but you can't actually set things specifically to your particular mapping. That said, if you're looking to enjoy a retro shoot 'em up classic, this is definitely one that I'd recommend trying. So, there we have it. Troubleshooter served up for your enjoyment. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and as always, I look forward to seeing you again next week.